Hey, everybody. I believe it's 8 o'clock, which means it's time to start the stream. Let's see what's going on here. Can you guys see me? I think so. I see Jared's already in the chat. Oh, awesome. I am live. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to my second ever Full Moon Madness live stream. It's a free form thing. I might have a couple of things to talk about, or I might just go off of what we have in the chat. It's you can think of this as a Q&A. You can think of it as a Stump the Grognard, however you want to approach it. I do have a funny story though to set. I can't hear the echo, Anthony, because I'm just talking, so it's not. My speakers are off, so I doubt it's me. Just to be sure. How's that? Any better? Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so it is Anthony. All right. Before I get to the question, Jared, I do have a funny story. Gary Con is next week, and I am a vendor there, and I had ordered a whole bunch of books from from drive-through because all my books are done print on demand, and I got a box, and what I got was a box of how to coach soccer books instead of my new book. So that caused a quite a bit of panic on my part, but the drive-through folks, the folks at one bookshelf, they were very good about it. They helped me get it all sorted out. But now I've got a box full of soccer coaching books that I need to figure out what to do with. So anyway, that was a recent thing that happened, and I thought it was kind of funny. Let me just hear about adjusting the camera. All right, no, that's no good. Let me get a little less ceiling, a little more me. How about that? There we go. And a little more of the famous Monsters of Filmland shirt. This is the Frankenstein one. Okay, so question from Jared. Did I see the new Batman movie and what did I think of it? I did, and I liked it a lot. I especially liked the way that they made Batman more of a detective trying to figure things out. There was the obligatory beating up bad guys scenes, and they were especially brutal, I thought, in terms of the way they portrayed it. But it was really nice to see Batman being shown to be more of the detective that he's supposed to be in the comics and in the animated series. And I won't get into spoilers, so no worries about anybody. Arya downstairs is agreeing with me. But what I thought, I thought it could have ended half an hour sooner. If they had just turned off the projector at half an hour before the end of the movie, I would have been really, really happy. But they went into this whole final act that seemed really overdone and unnecessary and didn't really need to be there. So it was just kind of it was half an hour too long, and most of the extra came from the very end. But I did like it. I liked it a lot. Certainly liked it better than a lot of different things. I still think Michael Keaton is the best Batman / Bruce Wayne. But Pattinson is really up there, and the guy they have playing the Penguin is fantastic. The Penguin character is terrific, and I hope we see more of him in the coming movies. So hey Adam, hey Anthony, hey quick save, and TR349, and anybody else who I missed. Good evening, and thank you for coming here rather than the other regularly scheduled live streams on Friday nights at 8. unfortunately, as you realize from the title of this one kind of bounces around. So sometimes I'm going to step on other people's live streams, and there's two that I actually watch sometimes that are on right now that I obviously am not. So, oh, here we go. Dan, Stump the Grognard. How many of the original Company of the Seven can I name? Absolutely none. When it comes to the NP, those are the pre-gen NPCs. I have no idea. That just escapes me. I mean, I've got it right there, but I'm stumped already. All right. But that said, all right, so let's see. We're still on Batman. Okay, I'm happy with that. Like the Keaton, right? Oh, Anthony, midnight? Where are you? Are you in England? I guess because I know it's 2 a.m. in Ukraine right now. I was just watching a live cam. But I guess the UK is midnight right now. But it's good to have you here, even for a little bit, Anthony. One thing that we can talk about, if we feel we need a theme, is something I did a blog post about a long time ago, and that is the land of black ice in the world of Greyhawk. And there is a tradition in the real world of Anthony, Scotland. Okay, UK. I got it right a little bit. Where if you go far enough into the Arctic North, you'll come to the edge of the world and actually go inside the hollow earth. And there are stories about Arctic explorers having really weird reports the more they go north of coming across fields of pollen on the ice, and how it actually gets warmer as you approach the pole, and just very incongruous things you see in a lot of these 19th century reports from Arctic explorers. And one of the things that really caught my eye was the reports of pollen in the ice, and they said that it made the ice look dark blue or green or black. And that made me think that maybe there's a connection between those reports of the hollow earth in the far north and the land of black ice in the world of Greyhawk, because obviously it's in the far north and they have the weird blue kobolds or something, bugbears, I guess. There's it's just very interesting to me that Gygax, who was obviously widely read in a whole bunch of different topics, would choose the black ice specifically, with that reference floating out there from these Arctic explorers. So I wonder if in the back of his mind he wasn't just kind of setting something up, maybe for the future, that the land of black ice was in some way near the entrance to the hollow earth, which I think would be a really cool thing. And I would probably have the Darrow coming from the hollow earth and flying around in their flying saucers and things like that. So when I was I did a blog post about this years and years ago, but I always thought that was a neat little connection, and I like to think that it was a intentional on Gygax's part. Jared, he explains the old evil in the north and the earth magic, the black ice being the prison of Tharizdun's minions, and the earth magic serving to keep them sealed. It's a neat idea. And exactly, Archibald, is that there would be the hollow earth would be inside the world of Greyhawk. And it doesn't even need to be, a completely hollow sphere. When you think about it, you could have something where it's with like an inner sun, and then everything's on the inside of the sphere. You could, in theory, have picture a sphere with like a big divot in the middle of the top, so that you can go down and in, and then there would be, and in that big indentation valley kind of thing, there could be this like the land that Lendor forgot or something like that, where it's it's warm, there's volcanoes and there's dinosaurs and things like that. You could do it that way too, where the the amount of area is actually bigger as you go north because it has this big indentation that you go out. There's a number of ways to do that. There was an article back in the 80s, I guess 82 or 83 in White Dwarf, back when White Dwarf was still doing D&D stuff, where they talked about the shapes of different the different shapes that planets could have. And they went into all this kind of topography stuff about different topological maps and ways you could do things. I mean, you could have like a planet that was a cylinder, and it was all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So that reminds me of that when you talk about different ways that the planet could be shaped. The city of the gods is the literal city of the gods. They're minions. Yeah, right. You're carrying forward the idea. I kind of like the idea that the city of the gods is a technological thing. I mean, that's as far as I know, that's that's how it was played in Dave's game when Gygax played in it and they visited that locality. I want to say that it was like full of robots and flying machines and things like that. I know he talked about it in Dragon, I think, at a couple of times. Adam, I am so very sorry to hear about your girlfriend. I hope everything does work out. I hope it turns out to be benign. That's nothing ever you want to mess with. So you have all my thoughts, Adam. I'm very sorry to hear that. Anthony, yes, exactly. The Savage Land in Marvel's X-Men is the same kind of idea where you have this lost planet, the lost world of the dinosaurs is in Antarctica. And interestingly, some people say that they might be opening the door to that in the new Doctor Strange movie. If you look at it carefully, there's a scene or two where there's dinosaurs, like as they're going through the different worlds. One of the worlds they do is like a Jurassic Park kind of thing. And it could be that he just goes into the past when he does that, or it could also be that they're showing Kazar and the Savage Land, which I think they could really nail a Kazar story because I mean the technology for making dinosaurs real has obviously been around since Jurassic Park, and it's only gotten better since then. So I think it's really something that if Marvel really wanted to sink their teeth into it, no pun intended, they could really do that, and it might be a good way to bring in some X-Men stuff too. And if I'm not mistaken, there's vibranium down in the Savage Land as well. I might be thinking of a different kind of super metal that's in the Marvel universe, but I think that's it. Nordic Maelstrom, we don't really have a topic. It's just sort of Q&A. It's me rambling on. I will be answering whatever comes up in the chat window, and in the meantime, I will fill the awkward silences with whatever comes to mind. For example, I am the very model of a modern Russian general. I have a great need for attention that is medical. I owe my job to Putin, and how did it go? I owe my job to Putin, and my will to fight is negligible. No concept of logistics, and my orders are ignorable. It's something like that. I had written it up yesterday. I thought I could do it off the top of my head. I could not. Jared, the really bizarre Northern Realm. Yeah. I believe you are correct, Jared, about the Valley of Dinosaurs at the North Pole. It's a fairly common trope, so it could have come from any number of places. Have I ever? Okay, so Dan has a. I'll go in order. Adam, what do I or anyone else here think of The Night Below? I owned it for a while and I never really played it. I skimmed through it. It was. I'm pretty sure it was Forgotten Realms. So at the time I didn't care. It kind of passed through me. I was aware of it and I didn't really delve into it all that much. And have I ever done anything with D2? Dan, what do you mean by do anything? Have I run it? Yes, absolutely. The thing about D2 is exactly the same thing as in D1. It is very possible to do the entire module in like 15 minutes by simply going to the northwest and showing the badges. and getting and just zipping right through. There's something where you have to pay obeisance to the prince or something like that, but it's very easy if you have enough intelligence in the sense of knowledge about what's going on, and you can get that from the deep gnomes, the Snurf Neblin. You could actually just fly through that D2. But what did you mean by do anything with it in terms of like expanding it or working on it? I shall await your clarification in the comments here. Let's see. What edition of Dungeons and Dragons is my favorite? It's got to be first edition. I mean, heck, that's what I started with Holmes Basic and I loved it. But as soon as I discovered first edition, I kind of gravitated over to that and stuck with it. Went to second edition when it came out. Played a lot of it when I was in the Air Force and in college. But then when third came out, I backtracked. I went back to first. And in fact, that's what I'm doing now is I'm making the series of expansions for first edition. So it's really where my heart lies. And the reason I like first edition best of all is because it's very modular. You can bolt stuff onto it and it doesn't break the whole system. You can take stuff out of it and replace it and it doesn't break the whole system because there is a standalone combat system. There is a standalone magic system. There is a standalone hit point system. And you can do that. You can do that with anything. I mean, we were playing like first edition, and you'd have claw law and arms law as the combat system. That lasted for a whole summer, and it didn't break the rest of it. But if you try to do something like that with more modern versions of D&D and other games that have a unified mechanic, you really can't do that. It's all the little sub games that fit together like one of those. What's the guy's name? The comic artist who did the big mousetrap kind of things. It's like that. And if you understand how all the different sub things interact with each other, you can swap them out and modify them and bolt things on and take things out, and it's still and you haven't damaged the rest of it. Archibald, yes, Don Twistbuck. That was intentional on my part. Good catch. I think you might be the first person who's caught on to where the name Don Twistbuck came from. But yes, that was entirely intentional on my part. Well spotted. Let's see, Jared, Vladimir Putin. Yeah, well, if we want to, we can get into Putin and the war later. But Anthony, if they can bring Moon Knight to the madness, there'd be a lot of love for Khazar. I think I don't know what to think about Moon Knight right now. I really wasn't a big Moon Knight fan back in the day. No pun intended again. Back when I was still actively doing comics, I wasn't a big Moon Knight fan. Obviously I know the character and there's something about it. I think they've been deliberately obscure with the trailers, so I really don't know what to make of it yet. I mean, they've been pretty hit or miss for me on the Disney Plus shows. I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I loved Hawkeye. Didn't think all that much of WandaVision. So it's been kind of hit or miss for me. Loki was about half good and half bad. So, so I'm not in the headspace where everything that Marvel puts out is gold. But hey, I'll give it a shot. I liked, like I say, I loved Hawkeye. So, they're good on the last thing that I saw. Let's see. Snail Creek. That's great. Nordic Maelstrom. Snail Creek. I like that. Let us see here. Have I gone into depth into using the Underdark in a Greyhawkian setting? In terms of like fleshing out all those other things on the map, no, but I know on Cannon Fire there was a big project to kind of fill in all those spaces on that map that's in G3 and the D series. They just filled it up with all kinds of cool stuff. I have done some stuff with other Underdark areas, like with I have the Underdark being very prominent in my my treatment of the Rift Canyon. Because in my conception, it makes sense that if you've got all these underdark tunnels, honeycombing under the earth, when something comes along and gouges out a big canyon like that, you're going to have the openings of the underdark kind of exposed. And so there's a lot of things you could do with that. Like when you take siding off of a house and it's riddled with termites, you get to see all the holes and everything. I think there's a lot to be done with that. So yes, I did in my own game. I've done a lot of stuff around the Rift Crag, and I might actually pull some of that out and start working on it for actual viewing, which would be neat. Has anybody done the Deities and Demigods Appendix 3 data for the deities of the FLNS? I have, yes. And I've done it also for the new deities that I've been creating in my Dragon magazine articles. When I did the Backlunish ones, one of the things had a layout exactly like you're talking that sideways view where you see it has actually new information, like what day do they celebrate, what color do the clerics wear, that kind of stuff. Yes, I have all that, and I thought I put it into my 5th edition Greyhawk stuff. I might not have, but I might have. I'd have to go back and double check. But yeah, I have something like that, and I could easily put that together. That's actually, I should take a note on that. That's a good idea. Yes, 1st edition is awesome. There's no denying that. Regarding D2, I'd muck up any plans to get through it quickly by having want to meet the party. The way I've screwed with players in that is by having the deep gnomes, who are their allies, go out of their way to make them get the gems that are on the ziggurat. Because the deep gnomes, all they want are the gems, and so by having the deep gnomes trick the party into going after the gems, you can set up this whole dynamic. It's like, yes, they're good, but they're also obsessed with getting more gems. So, there's ways to do that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. This thing does have a cough button, so yay. Purged your collection of all the Wizards of the Coast material. Unfortunately for me, being a Greyhawk completist, I still have to have all the 5th edition stuff and 4th edition stuff and even 3rd edition stuff that mentions Greyhawk stuff in it. They've come out with some really good one-shot things for Greyhawk. For example, there's the Lost Laboratory of Qualish. Came out a couple years ago, and it's available in print, print on demand. It was one of their charity offerings, and it's a great module. It's set, I think, in the Sulhout Mountains or something like that, and it's it's exactly what you would expect. It's kind of a gnomish sort of laboratory with a lot of magical, scientific-y things. It was really well done. I was very, very impressed with it. So from a fluff point of view, there's still valuable stuff that Wizards has put out that I'm gonna have. But I completely understand what you mean in terms of the mechanics of stuff. I personally, I never played 3rd or Pathfinder or any iteration of it. Never 3.5, nothing, none of it, and just stayed away. I played 4th twice, hated every second of it, and gave it up. 5th, on the other hand, I like. I don't think I would run a long-term campaign using 5th, but at a con game, I'm perfectly happy to play in a 5th. I don't think I'd run it. Obviously I ran it when I was writing my Greyhawk stuff because I had to play test a lot of stuff, but I don't think I would go for a long-term 5th edition campaign, but I'll play it at a con or something like that if that's what's on tap. Depending obviously on the specifics, but but I understand why people don't like it. It's got that unified mechanic that I hate, and there's a lot of things about it that it forces the lore to change to match the crunch, which I think is a terrible way to design a game. Is that everything has to conform to this rigid template, and I don't like it. But I understand why a lot of people do. A lot of people like that, that conformity, that it's easy to comprehend. Let's see now. Since I asked, the deep gnomes, the preliminary encounters. Archbale, twist equals turn. Don Turnbull. Oh yes, that is actually brilliant, Archbale. I had not put that together. That Turnbull could mean twist buck. Although I don't think that buck means bull. Buck is a stag. It's a deer. It's not a bull. So I'm not sure that really works. It would have been nice. Hello, Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad to see you. Nordic Maelstrom prefers DC to Marvel. Well, there's no accounting for taste. Although I gotta say, I do like the DC animated universe. The Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Justice League, the other Justice League, and a bunch of the movies were just excellent. Kevin Conroy is terrific as Batman. I love Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor. He's just spot on. And of course, Mark Hamill as the Joker. You can't beat that. But that the voice casting in that show is just fantastic. And I'm kind of sorry that over the years they had to simplify the animation in order to make it profitable. I really wish they could have stuck with the original style of the animation. And of course, Batman Beyond is also really, really great. Although some of the villains are kind of iffy. That main villain, who's the radioactive skull guy, but they did have Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, which is one of the best things they ever did. So, you get the good and the bad. And I think they're actually rebooting it, right? They're making new episodes or something like that. They're making a new series in that same continuity is what I believe I read. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. Let's see. Nordic Maelstrom finds WotC D&D to be more like Dungeons and Super. I thought that with 4th edition. And I understand it with 5th edition. 4th edition, I mean, literally, when I wanted to attack, I was playing a game, and I said, I want to hit the monster. I'm playing a fighter. I want to hit the monster. Well, use your smitey blow. It's like, no, I just want to roll to hit. Well, no, you got to use your power. Right there, that lost me completely, because I want to be able to just do stuff that doesn't involve scanning my character sheet, because when you do that, you tend to limit things to what's on your character sheet. You suppress the ability of the players, or to innovate and go off of their sheet, which I think is one of the strengths of earlier editions of D&D. 5th edition kind of pulled back from that, but yes, they've made it very hard to die with the short rests and the long rests and the saves versus death and all that good stuff. They have made it hard to die. I get that, and all the characters have powers and stuff, but you don't have to use them. You still can now go back and just cast a spell or roll to hit, which to me makes it better. Jared, 5th edition adventures, a fire elemental. The elemental evil module, structured like a Mega Man game. Okay. And each cult becomes stronger the longer the players let it linger. That's it's interesting you should mention that, because there was a mechanic in the 3rd edition I Use the Evil module, where it was City of Skulls, where the players are supposed to go into Doraka and rescue somebody, but there's this mechanic where they have notoriety. So the more stuff they do to draw attention to themselves, the more the whole city ratchets up its response, and you'll have more guards in places, and you'll have more patrols in the streets and stuff. I thought it was a great mechanic, and I wish I had thought to include a mention of it when I did D4 City of Spiders, because it would have been nice to have that same thing. Although they do say that the Dark Elves are too chaotic to really have a coordinated response, but you could have local responses if they notice that there's something going on. They wouldn't cooperate with each other, but each individual clan could have ratcheted up its thing. So I think there could have been a spin on it. I didn't think of it at the time, and I'm not going to go back. Adam, any tips on how to read AD&D supplements and modules without falling asleep? Well, yeah, you don't read them. The supplements especially, I don't read them cover to cover. Modules, it depends. I mean, if you've got a 12-page module, yes, you can read through that. You can read through Studying of the Hill Giant Chief and not fall asleep, guaranteed. But if you're reading something enormous like I Use the Evil or the Marklands or something like that, those big hefty post-war supplements that they did, I don't think it's really tenable that you're going to want to read that cover to cover. I would read the introductory stuff, and I would probably read the start of each section and familiarize myself with it and just skim in between. And then I know what's where, and I can go back later and look. It also helps to have PDF copies of this stuff. So if I'm looking up something specific, I can just do a search in a PDF, and it all shows up. And of course you can get most of the stuff for Greyhawk in PDF on drive-through. And it's for my purposes, because I do a lot of research, obviously, for the stuff that I do on the blog and the video and my modules and stuff. I do a lot of research, so I want to know every time something is mentioned. Having those PDFs really does help in that respect. So I hope that addresses your concern about reading the stuff, because I don't think I would. I think I agree, at least when it comes to the longer stuff, that you don't want to, you don't want to just read it. All right. So John Scott, all of the living Greyhawk and 3E Greyhawk converted back to first edition. Why do people keep trying to get me talking about living Greyhawk? I am not a fan of living Greyhawk. I'm going to be doing a video on that subject eventually, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, for specific things, I'm honestly not completely familiar with all of the living Greyhawk stuff that came out. I don't think anybody could be. For one thing, some of it's missing, right? So some of the triad stuff is just not available anymore. I've collected as much as I can, and there's still enormous gaps. But at some point I will talk about living Greyhawk in much more detail. Nordic Maelstrom, I should have clarified your Batman as a comic. Okay, no, superhero movies and comics. Okay, that I can respect that a little more. Although I'm still a Marvel fan when it comes to comics as well as the movies and TV shows. But that was back in the 80s. When I was in high school and college, my era of Marvel was the era of Secret Wars and the first Secret Wars, the real one, and when the Marvel Marvel superheroes role playing game came out from TSR, it was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted at the time, because I was reading. Those were the comics I was reading. Colorful costumes, big fights. That lovely table. I know, irony. I liked the unified mechanic in that, but that was my era of reading comic books. Was the 80s, and once I got out of college, I cut it off. I sold them all and cut it off. I didn't, I think I got $3 for my entire run of Dazzler, and although ROM Space Knight, I still miss my ROM Space Knight comics and my Kazar comics. But yeah, I can, when it comes to comic books, that's my era, and I keep up with it. I know what's going on in the things because I read a lot of stuff online. But in terms of the comics themselves, I'm not a real comic fan at this point. 4E was akin to an MMO. Yeah, a lot of people make that same observation. I've made it. Funny story about that. We were at our FLGS playing my first edition game, and on the table next to us, they were playing a 4th edition game, and you're next to each other in a game store. You can kind of hear what's going on, and we played through an entire like 4 hours, three or 4 hours of Castle of Mad Archmage, and they're exploring rooms and they're having fights and the traps and interacting with NPCs and all this stuff. The entire 4 hours that my players had like a dozen or more encounters, substantive encounters in Castle Mad Archmage, playing 1st edition, the table next to us fought a bear. And I am not exaggerating. It took them 3 or 4 hours to do one combat with a bear. And the whole table was just, are they still doing that? Yeah, they're still doing it. And they just, and another hour go by, they're still fighting that stupid bear. Oh my God. And we couldn't believe it at the time, just how cumbersome that game system was. It was just unreal. So anyway, that's my funny 4th edition story. Nordic Maelstrom, what settings do I like outside of Greyhawk? That's a great question. I like Dragonlance. I was big into Dragonlance when it first came out. I kind of lost interest once they started just going and going and going, and past that first series of modules and books. But I was a great fan of that setting. I was a fan of Forgotten Realms when the gray box came out, and then it just got too much. I couldn't do it. I do like the Judges Guild campaign setting. I was big into that. With the city-state of the World Emperor, city-state of the Invincible Overlord, that setting there. I like that a lot. It has a very it might be just nostalgia on my part, but it does have to my mind, a unique feel that no matter what system you're playing, you're still playing white box. It just feels that way to me. So I'm a fan of the wilderness, the majestic wilderness or whatever he calls it. In terms of other settings, I mean, I've played in Dark Sun and it's okay. In terms of non D&D type settings, I mean, I should say I don't like Planescape at all. I do like Spelljammer not as its own setting, but I like incorporating Spelljammer stuff into my Greyhawk stuff. So every once in a while I'll throw something Spelljammery, but I like the stuff, but not the setting as a whole. In terms of non-Greyhawks, non D&D stuff, Harn was always a big favorite. I like the approach that they did, where it's just very realistic, and I liked that at the time. The Iron Crown Enterprises stuff, that was really good at the time. I liked that a lot. Middle Earth, I mean, in general, has been treated very well across a bunch of different games. MERP was probably the best from my perspective, but I haven't really tried the systems. But as a setting, I mean, how can you go wrong with Middle Earth? Same thing with Conan. Hyperborea, as fantasy settings go, it's fantastic. One setting that I will say that's probably going to surprise a lot of people is Gore, the John Norman world, counter Earth thing. If you really, really, really tone down all of the slavery and the women are natural submissives and stuff, if you kind of get rid of that stuff, it's actually a really good Sword and Planet setting. And if you read the early books, there's really not that much of that stuff in there. It just kind of, as the books go on, the level of that just goes up like a hockey stick, and it's kind of unreadable. I just tend to just skip over it. I don't care about that stuff. I want to see what's happening with the war between Kos and R. I don't want to know, from my perspective. But as a Sword and Planet setting, it's really well put together because you've got this conspicuously low-tech civilization, but it's high-tech in very specific ways. You know, the medical stuff is very advanced, but the weapons, they, you know, the priest kings make them keep swords and shields that can't even have armor. I mean, it's just, and then you've got the core, the bad aliens, and you've got the priest kings who are the good aliens, and it as a setting, it's very well put together. If you can just kind of sort of compartmentalize the, you know, the awful stuff and kind of just we won't really get into that too much. It's, you know, if you're into Sword and Planet, I like that. Trying to think of what other game settings there might be out there. If I think of one, I'll bring it up. Let's see. A Greyhawk movie. It would be great if we had a Greyhawk movie, but we won't, because the present leadership at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro doesn't seem to think Greyhawk's worth anything because they have Forgotten Realms. So you're going to see a Forgotten Realms movie before you see that, and you're probably just going to see a genericized, you know, fantasy D&D movie, which is what they're working on now, which is supposed to be, what did they say? It was a mix of, it was a mix of The Princess Bride and something else. That sounded really weird. Oh yeah, it was Game of Thrones meets Princess Bride, which seems kind of, I don't know. But in terms of casting, like who would play different parts, oh man, that is I don't know. I'm trying to think where Chris Evans would go in there, because he's one of those people that he should be in everything. Like Jason Momoa, you know, it's not who would you want to play each role. It's who do you want Jason Momoa to play, or The Rock, because they have to be in everything. It would be, I don't know. I would have to give some thought as to, and that might actually be a topic for a video unto itself. That's a cool idea. Anthony's running a Greyhawk campaign using basic fantasy rules. The edition fell out of love with. Oh, you started with 5th edition. That's interesting. I've met. I know, because of the sales figures and everything, that there has to be an enormous number of people that started with 5th edition, but I don't know any of them, because all the people I play with in my home groups are, you know, old school people. They've been playing this for a while, and if I'm the first person showing them D&D, they're learning 1st edition, or Adventures Dark and Deep, or you know something like that. But it's very interesting how few people I know who started with 5th, because I guess, you know, it's obviously just a generational thing. And okay, so I gotta scroll back up here. I've missed things as I've been rambling. Let's talk about the new Batman, the Morbius movie. I am looking forward to Morbius. Dan, I am really looking forward to that. And hello, Hamish Shaw. Morbius looks great. I'm at this point very sure that when you see Michael Keaton in it as the Vulture, he's going to be like a variant, like we saw with there's the variant Spider-Man. You're going to have variant Spider-Man villains. So the one that we saw in Spider-Man Homecoming is not exactly the same individual that you're going to see in Morbius, even though they look the same and they probably have a lot of the same background. I think they're going to use that multiverse thing to kind of slip around that. But I'm absolutely looking forward to it. I already have my tickets. All right, Jared reads the modules. That's awesome. And is an anomaly because he writes it fan fiction. I've taken a stab at fan fiction here and there. I don't think I'm very good at it, but I give it a go. And John, don't worry. No, don't. It's not like if you bring up Living Greyhawk, it's a stain upon your reputation here. No, that's fine. I realize a ton of people love it. I get that. I understand it. It's just not my personal my thing. So please don't apologize for bringing it up. Have the Vault Cutter Jockey, welcome aboard. The Vault begin to descend into chaos as each Drow clan tries to capitalize. Well, in effect, that's what they're doing in D3 and my D4, is that the clans are using the PCs to kind of jockey against each other, and you're seeing it with like the pro Lolth factions are using the PCs. The Elder Elemental God faction is going to use the PCs to aim them at Lolth to hurt them, because they figure the PCs are so powerful, they're going to use them to their own advantage, which I love that little bit of scheming that's in there. And Archibald, yes, you're right. Although they did have in the comics, they made these archives of the Marvel characters with like they'd have like A through D was one comic. They'd have a whole series of them, and it would be like Wikipedia, but it was in the 80s and it was in print. And I'm very sure in Marvel Superheroes they did the same thing. They had like codices or something of the various characters. But having all that rich background is one of the things that really makes Marvel Superheroes a great game, is because you do have all this ton of background material to play with. It's really amazing. And it's very approachable and very easily digestible. All right. Nordic Maelstrom likes reading the Dragonlance novels, but the setting has a lot of annoying things, like Kender, perhaps. Did I say that? Lonkmar. That's one. Yes, I love Lonkmar. I have as much Lonkmar AD&D material as I can. I have the Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics Lonkmar for the setting part of it. Lonkmar, I grew up on Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, the books. They're quintessentially Dungeons and Dragons to me. They were just so influential. And of course, he was actually involved with TSR in the early days in Gygax. That's how they got the license to do some stuff. There's a Lonkmar game, which I have actually, the Lonkmar board game. Where is it? It's over there somewhere. Yeah, it's there. There's a Lonkmar board game that TSR put out because he was kind of, on good terms with them. Spelljammer, I have to do a video on Spelljammer. I shall. Al-Qadim is, I don't care for it, not just because it's Forgotten Realms, but I think Al-Qadim is the kind of thing that works best if you insert it into other stuff, right? So you could take some of the Al-Qadim stuff and insert it into the Baklunish West in Greyhawk, and it would work great. But the whole thing about everything has to be about genies and the elements, it's just a bit much. I mean, I get it. It's Middle Eastern, so it's genies and D&D are based on the elements, but I think they just carried it a bit too far to the exclusion of other things that might have been really nice. I did not mention Ravenloft. That is true. I don't like Ravenloft is another one of those things that I don't like it as a setting, but I love taking bits and pieces of it and putting it into my game. For example, a lot of the monsters will just they show up in my Greyhawk game just because I'm that special kind of jerk. If you try to cast conjure earth elemental in a graveyard, you're getting a grave elemental whether you want it or not. That kind of thing. So I love the individual bits and pieces of it, but I'm not keen on it as a setting for a long-term game. I don't think it sustains itself that well. John, nice having you here. Sorry you had to go, but have a great evening. Would like to create his own. Nordic Maelstrom is creating his own setting, a sprawling metropolis, and Lonkmar. Yeah, get the Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics book. It's a doorstop, but it's got tons and tons of material. Even if you don't use the DCC system, there's a zillion things in that book you're going to be able to raid for other things. I've taken a lot of the first edition Greyhawk Lonkmar stuff and put it into my City of Greyhawk, because it's very obvious that the City of Lonkmar and its Thieves Guild and all that good stuff was one of the models for the City of Greyhawk. I mean, that's just, you can't get around that. All right. Anthony started with AD&D back in the 80s, and picked up with 5th edition. Yeah, people do. Anthony, okay, understood. If you drop off, started with AD&D 1st edition, TR 349. Yeah, the Nordic Maelstrom. Yes, Kender. I actually played a Kender, and I was so annoying, I even hated myself. The Kender just happens to have the ring. Yeah. The Tazoloff is often very useful. Yes, he's actually, you are correct. He serves a purpose in the novels, but at the table, Kender are disruptive to the game in a lot of ways because of the way they're portrayed. It's very easy when you're writing a novel to make the antics of a Kender just happen to work out perfectly. At a gaming table, it's much harder to have those long setups, and that's why they come across as a little bit just, oh my God, can you please just stop? What did I think of the original Ravenloft adventure? It was a fine adventure, Cutter Jockey. It was, as a standalone module, it's a very good, and of course it had those wonderful, innovative isometric maps, which was really the selling point of it. It wasn't because Strahd is such a great character, he is, but at the time when it first came out, the reason you bought it was for those really, really cool maps, which remain cool to this day. Anthony, big of using horror elements in regular D&D. Oh yeah, you are going to love what I'm doing for my next Kickstarter, Anthony, and I will get to. I'll do it. I got to do a mention of my Kickstarter because I'm almost done with the book. When I am done with a book, that's when I can start thinking about kickstarting it. But I'll get to that in a sec. But talking about horror in a D&D game, this is going to be right up your alley. Played a Blackguard in the only Dragonlance game I played, and there was a Kender in the group. The Kender didn't last long when he did it. Yeah, exactly. That'd be part of the challenge for playing a Kender, to be without being disruptive. That is true. And if you're the kind of player who can do that constructively, that's a different story. So many players that I've run into over the years don't do that. They're, hey, I'm a Kender. My job is to be annoying, like a Tinker Gnome or one of those Gully Dwarves. Now that I think about it, they had a lot of those kinds of races in Dragonlance. I don't know why. They all stuffed them in there. I should read for the part of Bigby. When I shave the head, people think I look like Mordenkainen. So, or no, Tensor, that's it. So, all right. So I've caught up. So what I want to talk about real quick, because we've been at this almost an hour, and we don't have to stop, at the hour exactly, but I want to make sure I get this in, is that I am working on my next Kickstarter book, which is a Lovecraftian first edition book. So picture, where is it? Give me this. Oh my goodness. It's here. So picture this, but with Cthulhu on the cover. And it's going to have new classes, new races, new spells, new monsters. There's going to be a cultist class. With different cults of different gods. So there's like a dozen different specialty cultists. There's obviously new magic items, including mythos grimoires. There are technologies, which are kind of like the secondary skills that I have in Adventures Dark and Deep, except they're technological. So you have like the technology of the MyGo and things like that. And it all comes from the original Lovecraft stories. Because of copyright, I have to go off of the original stuff that's in public domain. And a lot of times there's just names, like Tsothagua, the toad god. That's pretty much all you know about him, is the name, and he's and where he lives under a mound, and he has black shapeless things around him. That's all you know. So that gives me a great deal of freedom, because I don't have to conform to all the stuff that other authors like August Derleth and Clark Ashton Smith and so forth have added on over the years. So look for that coming in a month or 3 to Kickstarter. And of course, I will be humping it all over the place. But as is my policy, I don't ever actually start a Kickstarter until I've finished writing the book, and I am almost done. I'm like this close done. I should be done by the end of the month, so I'm really looking forward to that. I did mention this on the blog, Jared, but not everybody is as assiduous in reading all my social media, so I have to get out the plug. Adam, what do I look for in potential players at my table? Okay, this is a good topic. And no, Tharizdun is not an aspect of Cthulhu. As far as what do I look for in potential players at my table, I look for players who are going to take things seriously, and not be and not be murder hobos. I don't like the murder hobo aesthetic. If there's a certain style of play that works in a mega dungeon, and if you try to take that style of play and apply it in a regular environment like a town or in a lot of times wilderness or things like that, it falls apart. And I don't want to play a silly game, and I look for people who are willing to, making a couple of jokes at a table. It's obviously that's not a bad thing, but when that's all you're doing, and when it seeps into the gameplay itself, where your character is doing silly things just because you think it's funny, that's what turns me off, and that's what I look for to avoid in a player. I'm looking for people who are serious about the role-playing aspect of it, who are willing to play a character that doesn't have all 18s, and who is willing to play a character who's not optimized because they see role-playing potential in the idea that, I have I have a charisma of 6. How can I use that to further the game, rather than seeing it as a limitation to overcome? Is that you're doing that, or deliberately choosing a character who is going to be socially ostracized or have great social issues integrating into the rest of the campaign. If you're doing that just to be annoying, it's one thing. If you're doing that because you see that as an opportunity for role-playing to explore how a character like that is going to fit to expand your own range as a player, that's the kind of thing I like. But obviously there is a time and a place for silliness and frivolity. I wouldn't look for somebody who has no sense of humor, but I think it needs to be tempered with the idea that the outcome of the game is really what you're focused on, and the outcome of the game is not merely racking up a kill number. And Weird Fantastic Toy Adventure. What about Munchkins? Munchkins in the sense of min-maxers, which is what we used to call them back in the day. I don't like people like that at all. I don't do it myself. I don't like people who try to squeeze out every little ounce of damage. I don't like the whole concept of builds, and that might be why I don't like 3rd or 5th as much as I do 1st. I mean, the most you get out of a 1st edition character's build is the stats that you rolled and the money that you rolled and what weapon you pick. And in my game, those weapons that come with a lot of high damage, you're always going to be going last in round because those invariably are big, heavy swinging weapons. You're not going to be able to use it all the time in a dungeon environment. I play with those consequences of taking the thing that does 2d8 damage against large creatures. Let's see now. Dan, now that's a good topic. Should do a video on not being a class clown at the table. I like that. Something I hate in some players that everything is a joke. Exactly. players who want to take the game seriously and there to enjoy themselves. Avoid power gamers, complainers. Yep, I can't argue with any of that. Nordic Maelstrom. Take this the wrong way. I have a lot of overlap. Do I have a lot of overlap with Matt Mercer of all people? Because I've never watched an episode of Critical Role. I watched the cartoon, Legends of whatever it was, Vox Machina. I enjoyed it, but it seemed like it really did lean into the comedy, especially the raunchy comedy, more than I would be comfortable with at a table. So I assume that's what their game is like, and that's not something I would be comfortable with personally. The reason Orion, I have no idea who you're talking about. So I don't watch it, so I don't know who you're talking about. The whole Mercer effect thing is probably, I mean, so many people have talked about it, so many people have blogged about it, so many people have done videos about it. Yes, he does set up false expectations to new people who see that as like that's the model of what a D&D game is supposed to be like, where everybody is has graduated from acting school and has improv skills that they've honed over the last 5 or 10 years, who are professional comedians and sort of like that. I get that complaint and I can see it to an extent, but I'm not sure that really impacts my game, because those aren't the players I'm looking for. So I'm kind of insulated from it, from the Matt Mercer effect. Anyway, I might try to check out an episode or two just to see how my expectation based on the cartoon is compared to the reality. Archibald 30, we have Munchkin friendly, yes. Adam, avoid those who look as gaming is something to do. I don't think I understand that. If you say build a character or character build, that's okay. Yeah, character build is really the thing for me. I don't build characters; I roll characters. Nordic. What's wrong with this place? Okay, I'll let you guys have that chat. Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures have Knights at the Dinner Table. It's obviously Knights at the Dinner Table is a big exaggeration of that kind of gaming. But that's the sort of power gaming that I personally don't like. But obviously in the comic, it's deliberately ratcheted up to 1,000. And as a means of poking fun at it, so I get that. But yes, there are people like that. I've played with it. I've played with people who cheated on their dice rolls on their characters, like right in front of me, and it did not end well. It was just, what goes through your mind that if you don't have 2 18s in your character, you think it's a failure. You can't play. Oh my god, how can I play? I can't do 20 points of damage in one round. I don't play that kind of game. I don't want to play that kind of game. I want to play a game where I'm interacting with people and exploring and learning about the world. I want a game where my players are interacting with the NPCs and exploring and learning about the world that way. Not that they're just trying to rack up a bounty count. And I guess that's the answer to the question. Those are the kinds of players I'm looking for. The players who are looking to play a game of exploration of both character and setting. And I guess that's the way to put it. I should write that down. That came out really well. Okay, what else we got here? The oppressive bleakness. Yeah, the oppressive bleakness, Lovecraftian stuff really came out in the cartoon. I thought. I thought that was one of the things they did really, really well. The sort of cost. Okay. Okay. So you guys are talking about Critical Role. I will leave you to it. I'll interject if I see something interjectable. So we are after 9, and this is a time when I need to start making dinner. But I will stay on for another couple of minutes. If anybody has anything else you want to bring up, any questions, or you want to. My favorite location in Greyhawk. Well, this is an easy one. because it's obviously going to be the area right in the center of the Flyness, right? Because there's that one area that is so obviously made for gaming, because you've got the near dive up here, you've got a swamp right next to the city, you've got the forest and the hills, and you've got hills and mountains and a desert, all within about a week's journey of the city of Greyhawk. Plus, you've got the city of Greyhawk itself. But that central part of the Flyness, right below, just south of the near dive, is just so self-evidently created specifically for gaming that has to be the choice, because it has just so many opportunities in terms of different terrains and different things that you're going to see. So that is got to be it. When do we get Golden Scroll of Oerk? Yeah, that's coming as soon as I can wrap up the last art. I've got one more Dragon magazine article to do on Zahindia, and that's when I start heading into the Celestial Imperium. So if I can, once I'm done with my Cthulhu book, I'll have time to start really looking at those more in-depth articles and get that out the door. Because I've got a split class. Not only do I have 4 more gods to do, I've got a whole split class to do for this article. The split class is the Swami, so I gotta, that's going to take a bit of doing. But once that's in the can, then I move westward to the Celestial Imperium. Let's see, bringing things back around to Greyhawk. I didn't think it was so detailed. I mean, I don't think it was detailed in a bad way. I mean, she was a central character in the novels as well as in the modules. So I think he was just taking advantage of a really good protagonist NPC, just like with Obmi. Let's see. Random question: how do I reconcile the high weights for weapons? I got to say, it's not a particular area of expertise for me. I don't have big, thick books of sword. Actually, no, that's not true. I do have a book of swords. And so, okay, scrap that. I don't have a big book of pole arms on my shelf. But I mean, also it's a game, So if there has to be a few compromises here or there for a game. For game balance, I'm not going to be too opposed to it. Also, bear in mind that in first edition, it's encumbrance. It's not necessarily weight. So it's a kind of it's a melding of both weight and bulkiness. So that if you've got a 10-foot halberd or something like that, it may weigh less than the encumbrance listed in the player's handbook, but it's got a higher encumbrance because it is so bulky and difficult to manage. So that is a part of it, is that it is supposed to be kind of an abstract melding of those two concepts. False. Okay. Do I game with music? No, I do not. I've tried, I've played with it, and I just got so wrapped up in, okay, what do I play now, and how swapping out CDs and stuff. It became too distracting for me to do music in my game. To run the show, consider releasing my Oerk map. Oh yeah, as I go on, the thing with the Oerk map, you can still find the low res version on the blog. The reason I'm not putting it out there is because I'm redoing the whole thing. As I'm doing these new series of Zahindia, of the Backlunish and the Zahindia, and soon, as I'm going westward, I'm redoing the entire map from scratch. And that's why you'll see, like in the Zahindia one, there's actually a map. You can print that map out and tape it on your on the corner of your Darlene map, and it'll match. There were a lot of issues with the original maps that I did. 10 years later, I see all the flaws, and I just want to redo them. So that's why there's no real big one. But once I'm done, absolutely, the full scale thing will be made available, and I'll probably do a version of the Flyness in my style, which is copying Darlene's style. So it's kind of recursive. So hope that answers the question. Let's see. Everybody needs a big book of pole arms. Yes, I've got a 2-volume medieval warfare source book, which I love, sitting on the shelf, depicting Eclavdra as the puppet master. I don't think Snurri is dumb. I think I'd have to go back and look, but I think he's actually really intelligent. I've always, for whatever reason, I always assumed that it was the hill giants who were recruited first, and then they were given up for the more powerful frost and fire giants. And I know that doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, because it's the fire giants who actually have a portal into the Underdark. But there is that ruined portion underneath the hill giant steading, and it makes me think that maybe the Drow came up there first and then got them going, because there's a Temple of the Eye there too. And then they kind of retreated from the hill giants and are using Snurri now as their foil. But I get the impression he's not a big dumb brute who happens to be charismatic. I get the impression that he really is on the ball, but it's just you can interpret it any number of different ways. Have bands ranging. Okay, we're talking about the music, band performance, the Thousand Tales of. I got to see what you're talking about here. Okay. Adam, I found that the rock music we listened to as teens. Yeah. There was a certain aesthetic of in some metal bands back in the 80s that kind of really deliberately leaned into the swords and sorcery genre. You see that some bands actually, just went out of their way to say, yes, we're doing things for your D&D game. Crocus even had a video that was very Gamma World Gamma Worldy in its aesthetic. It was really funny. But you get things like Def Leppard with the swords, and there's a Dio obviously did a lot of things like that. So there's there was definitely an aesthetic in the 80s between heavy metal, hard rock, and the fantasy genre that was just this kind of sympathy. G3 more strong than smart. Okay, yeah, like I say, it's more of a when you have a strength of 24, more strong than smart, might mean something. But oh no, I know he's not the true leader of the whole thing. I know obviously Eclavdra is the power behind it, but whether or not he was just a moron following orders, because you get that impression with the hill giant chief, is that he really is just a dumb brute. I don't know. It's just different ways. All right, J.K. Figueroa, tell me a story about the Sea Barons. Alas, J.K., I'm trying to wrap this up so I can go make dinner. A veritable Harridan and a Frightway. I love that. Yeah, anything that looked Vallejo and Blind Guardian. Okay, so anyway, we are at like 9:15 here, so I am going to wrap this up. Thank you all very, very much. I hope this has been as much fun for you as it has been for me. I've had a blast talking to y'all. And for anybody who's watching the replay here, thank you all for sitting through more than an hour of me rambling on about Greyhawk and games and stuff. And everybody have a great night. Thank you all for coming. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody who participated in the chat. Weird Fantastic, Toy Adventures, Jared, Archibald, Adam, JK, everybody who I didn't say, you've all been wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will see you on the next full moon for our live cast. And I will see you next Sunday for another adventure hook. So talk to you all later. Have a great night. And thanks again.